My name is Daniel Villegas, and I'm a survivor of wrongful conviction. I grew up in Northeast El Paso, Devil's Triangle area. It was probably the roughest part of town. I remember they said in 1993 we had more deaths in that one little area in 1 month than El Paso had in the whole year. It was April the 10th. It was a Good Friday. We had these boys. They were at a little get together at a girl's house. The parents of the girls were getting upset, and they told their girls, these guys gotta leave. This Northeast was really a bad area, so these guys really didn't want to walk home, but they had no choice. You gotta remember back in 87 going to 95, probably gangs were very prevalent. So they started walking home, and they avoided the area, trying to miss them. And while they were walking, Rudy and them drove up on them. And then they opened fire on them. One of them got hit in the head. He died right away. And then the other kid, he got shot on the side. So he ran to this house, and he was banging on the door, asking for help. When he started doing that, they called the police, and then he fell out in front of that house, and he bled out. 2 weeks after that, that's when the police detectives came, and then they arrested me, Rodney Williams, and Marcos, and everybody else that got arrested with us. I didn't know it, but my cousin, David Rangel, he had got arrested already earlier in the day for this. The police called David's mom and told him, hey, we want your son here for a phone harassment charge. He goes, and then when he goes there, they're like, hey, it's not the phone harassment. Yeah, you're arrested for capital murder. David was a bookworm. Being the bookworm, we always used to pull pranks on David. Like, I remember one time, we told him about, joining a gang. We were joking around with David and telling them, that I had did it. And, we're kids. There were so many deaths at that time. And so when they arrested David, like I said, they threatened him. They were slapping him around. They told him he was going to be, and he was a pretty white boy. So then he says, hey, my cousin told me he did it, which he mentioned me. So that's how they tied us up into this. That joke cost me 20 years, But the whole crazy thing, like the whole case, it just doesn't make sense how these officers did a bunch of the stuff. Because when they came and hit that door to come into my house, they didn't even come in to arrest me. They came in to arrest my friend Marcos Gonzalez. They literally passed me by, and they're pulling them out the house. And the last detective that was walking out, I stopped, and I told him, I'm saying, hey, where's the arrest warrant at? If you don't have an arrest warrant, you need to let him go. And that's when the officer told me it was Officer Marcos. He said, well, what's your name? And I said, Daniel Villegas. And then he tackled me down, and he said, oh, we're looking for you too. They throw me into that juvenile center. And then that's when they started beating me. He had a big old ring, like a class graduation ring. And he would flip it, to his right here, and he would slap him in the back of the head. And he was telling me, you little, I'm gonna take you out to the desert. I'm gonna strip you butt naked. We're gonna handcuff you to the car, beat your ass, have you walk to the city. And when you get to the city, we're gonna pick your ass back up and then put you in jail. They did that for hours and hours and hours. Finally, they wore me out, and I was like, you know what? I'll do whatever you guys want, man. I want to get the hell up out of here. And I figured this is America. No one goes to prison for something they didn't do here. So I figured, I can say this, and they're gonna find out who really did it, and I'll get let go. That was my initial thought. But it ended up happening. I ended up having to, get convicted and end up doing 20 years in prison for it. During that point, what happened was I did make a confession. It was actually the police confession. What he would do was he would type up. He would tell me like, okay, this and this and this and this happened, and he'll look at me, and I'll have to say yes. And that's the way the statement was made. And then at the end of the statement, he had me sign it. End of story. That's when I went to El Paso County Jail. I was actually an adult, and I was facing the adult system. I went to the jail cell after I got booked in. I cried in the cell for like 5 minutes. I just put the pillow on my head, cried, got up, washed my face off, and then I said, okay, this is it, man. This is me for the rest of my life. I'm gonna be the best convict there is. I did not have no more faith in the system. I didn't have no more faith in nothing. I went in there to be the best convict there was, and that's what I did. I became a gladiator for the officers, which was an illegal thing. What we would do is they would gamble on us, and they would pit fight us like dogs. I just changed to a very, very cold, miserable being. And I was just dead inside, and I stood dead for years and years. I just became part of the system. The first phone call I made after I got convicted was to Julie. That was the mother of Priscilla. And I told her, I was like, you heard what happened in the news, right? She's like, yeah. And I'm like, I'm at a life sentence. I said, you're young, you're beautiful, you're intelligent. I'm going to be stuck here forever, man. Go about your life, man. I'm never going to bother you again. I totally gave up on everybody in life. I didn't see my little girl. I saw her one time when she was 7. My parents had brought her. And then I didn't see her until after I went to my evidentiary hearing, which was probably like 9 years after that. She was like 16, and she had grown so big I didn't recognize her, but she kind of looked familiar, right? So when I'm walking in court and I see her, I go after the court's hearing is done, I call my mom. I'm like, who was that? Who was that young girl that was right there sitting with y'all? And she was like, that's your daughter. And I was like, holy. And I like really broke down at that time, because I was like, what kind of man don't even know how his daughter looks like? John and Bella married my ex-sister-in-law. So they go to drop off the kids to my parents' house, and then My parents are crying and stuff. So John asked them, hey, what's going on? So they tell him, hey, our son's been in prison for 12 years already. We've been shooting all these innocent projects and they're all shooting us down. And we just gave up hope. And by this time, my mom's already seen that, I'm already a lost cause as far as mentally goes. I was just out of there. Then he's like, well, let me look at the case and let me see it. And, this is a contractor. This is not a lawyer or nothing. So he starts reading everything that we have. And he's like, hey, this guy's innocent. He freaks out. He's like, I'm going to do whatever I can to get him out. My mom told me to put him on the visitation list. He comes in there and he tells me, I know you're innocent, I'm gonna get you out. And by this time I'm already, been in there over a decade. And I'm like, this is Texas, buddy. Good luck with that. He was like, nope, I'm gonna do it. You're gonna see. And sure enough, started investigating. He started getting all these witnesses. He started this guy became a private eye. Once they got enough evidence, he gave it to a lawyer. The lawyer told him too, hey man, this is not gonna happen. But when the lawyer reads the case, the lawyer's like, holy. So he called him and he tells John, hey man, this guy's innocent. And John's like, that's what I've been trying to tell you. So he's like, yes, let's do it. He's like, look, we got less than 1% chance to get him out, but let's try because he's innocent. And little by little, that's when I started getting my life back. And the whole process started around, let's just say 2006. I didn't get out until 2014. It was 6 years right after John got in the picture that we finally got our foot in the doorway for a court hearing. The evidentiary hearing is basically a trial. The only difference is the burden is on the defendant, not the DA. And it has no jury. It's done all by a judge. So you do that, and then this judge just makes a recommendation. And then that recommendation goes to what they call the Courts of Criminal Appeals in Texas. And that's a 9-panel judge. And so when it goes to them, they're the ones that are going to make the official decision. And my lawyer told me, he said, look, 3 of the judges are anti-inmate. We're not going to get them. We have to get majority vote, though. I wait because the judge now has to make a decision. So he goes through all these tapes. He goes through all these things. And it took him almost close to a year. And he makes a decision. And he made it astonishing. He went with me. He said that, I was illegally arrested, and they put on the bottom, not only that, but he's actually innocent. And he sent his recommendation to the Courts of Criminal Appeals. But like I said, we still have to face these judges. So it's like every Wednesday they shoot out all these names of these cases that they either approved or they didn't approve. So every Wednesday for a year and a half, I'll call my mom and I'll be like, was my name on the list? And she'd be like, no. And it was just like another freaking punch in the face, every week. I hated Wednesdays. To this day, I hate Wednesdays. Because every Wednesday, I would have to call her and she would tell me, you're not on the list, baby. So finally, she's like, I call and she's screaming, you won. And I'm like, what's going on? And she's like, you won. Your name was on the list and you won the case. So then my lawyer actually comes to me and he's like crying too. And he's like, you won't believe this. He's like, we never had this happen before. All 9 judges voted in your favor. He said they didn't give us the innocent, but they voted that case, we should go to trial again. And he said, I don't know if you understand this. He said, never in the history of Texas of all 9 judges vote unanimously on the case. So then it comes into the next year, it's January, and they're fighting us for the bond now. So they got all these capital murder cases, and they got all these $2.3 million bond, $4.4 million. The DA is going off, this bond is appropriate for this case, and this should be, so they're trying to set me a high bond. And my lawyer's like, look, judge, I represent half these guys. So let's go through all these cases and tell you why the bond is so high on these cases. Finally, at the end, the judge says, I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do. I want a $50,000 bond, $40,000 PR bond, $10,000 security bond, which means that I have to pay $1,000 to get out. And he says, and I want them out within 30 minutes. And they got me out of there within 30 minutes. And then after that, we still had to wait. That was 2014. So we still waited till 2018 to actually go to jury trial. We get there and they tell me, okay, this is my lawyer says, look, I don't want to tell you this, but I have to. They want to give you a plea deal. The plea deal is called an Alfred plea. So what it is it says you can state you're innocent, but you say you're going to plead guilty because you feel that the state has enough evidence to still convict. So you still get a conviction, but you maintain your innocence. When you tell me this, I'm ready to sign it, right? But you got to remember, when I went to my second hearing, they offered me 2 10-year sentences running concurrent, right? Which means I wouldn't have had 10 years. They would have dropped the capital murder to a manslaughter case. I said no. I ended up getting a life sentence. I got arrested when I was 16. So by this time, I'm already a grown man. I got kids. I'm already living a family life. I'm working, I'm paying bills, and I didn't want to lose that. That's why that statement made so much, such an impact on me. He says, at the end of the day, man, if you do it, You're doing it for all of us who couldn't. And we both started crying, we hugged, and I said, you know what, I'm gonna do it now. You should have said, you know, you got that little fighter in me, man. Now you got that, we're gonna do this. And yeah, we didn't look back, and we took it to trial.
The District Court of El Paso County, Texas, 409th Judicial District, the state of Texas versus Daniel Villegas, number 94 0D09328. Verdict Form B. We, the jury, find the defendant Daniel Villegas not guilty of...
We got a not guilty verdict. And now I'm starting to heal and stuff. I mean, you wouldn't even imagine where I just applied for. I applied for a correction officer. And I got the interview too. And I was answering the questions, and they were like, have you been in law enforcement before? Have you been a correction officer? I'm like, nope. They're like, these are really good answers. And I'm like, I just know the system really good. But one of the things that I think got them was what I told them. I was like, you know, my whole point is, you know, the system, they're punished already when they got convicted. So I said, our job isn't to punish them. Our job is just to basically make sure they're safe and they eat and they get their butt home after that. And she was like, I love that. These people, I mean, they're already in this institution. You know, their lives are already miserable being in there, you know. So I would just like to be that light right there for them, because they're going to have mothers that pass away in there, or their family, their wife leaves them, or their whatever. And they don't need somebody just barking order at them. Someone to show them respect and just treat them like a human being. A lot of people don't realize about us exonerates is that we carry this with us. We don't come out here and we're like freaking millionaires or nothing. Like we don't have no education, don't got no job experience, don't got no credit, don't got nothing. And you're literally starting your whole life over at 40. You start like fresh. You can't do nothing about it. It's the past, it's done. And if I stay just dwelling on that, I'm not gonna experience tomorrow. We can't change our past, but we can change tomorrow. You have to look with the good with the bad and just keep on going forward and not be miserable on that. That's what I always tell everybody. Okay, that happened to you. I understand, that's terrible. But let's move on now. Whatever we need to do to move on, and let's move on now. You know what I'm saying? Figure out what we need to do and let's do that. Because if you just stay here, that poor me, you're not gonna do nothing but put yourself in the dump. A lot of people feel like just because I'm not doing what my friends are doing, I'm gonna be all right. Not realizing that just because you ain't doing what they're doing, you're associated with them, you're going to get caught up with them. And when you get caught up with them, you're going to be the scapegoat, because why? You don't know nothing and they do. So it's easier to put the blame on you, because it's always self-preservation at the end of the day when it comes to the police officer putting them charges on you. And then they're going to be in jail talking about, I thought I was okay. I've heard it in jail a million times. It wasn't me, man. I thought I was okay because I was just there, but I didn't do nothing. And I was like, you were there. A little minor thing can turn into a life sentence, just like a joke can. And that's all it took. The main reason why, you know, all of us exonerates, we do this. We put our stories out there and we show our stories on social media and we go out to these places to go talk, is because we want everybody to know that this happens. I never thought it was a wrongful conviction in America. I was gung-ho. We were the best country in the world. We always get it right. So you have a lot of people that still have this mentality. I've done conferences and I've had judges come up to me, and judges like, I've been on the bench for this and this and this term, man, and you really made me totally change the way I think about our system, or how I look at different inmates, because after a while you get so burnt out, everybody's just a case number. And it's like, a lot of them have told me, man, you're bringing life back into me, bringing me back to see that, hey, it's more than just a case number. You put that awareness out there, man, and it's helping the next guy out there, so the next Daniel Villegas don't have to spend 20 years in prison. I hope you enjoyed this story. I hope it motivated you and inspired you, and y'all have a great day.